Euromaxx Highlights. And here's your host, Robin Merrill.
Hello and welcome to Euromaxx Highlights. Coming up in the next half hour. Unbelievable, Maurizio Savini's bubblegum sculptures. Intriguing, Markus Benesch and his 3D wallpaper. And incomparable, build your very own custom-made skis. We begin today, though, with one of the world's best female freestyle snowboarders, Silvia Mittermüller from here in Germany. And she's also one of the few snowboarders here who's turned her hobby into her profession. It's still a male-dominated sport, but more and more women are taking it up. We met up with Mittermüller at a recent snowboarding competition in Switzerland, which she was hoping to win, of course, but also keep her ranking in the world's top 10.
Once every season, the world's best snowboarders gather to compete in Davos, Switzerland. Silvia Mittermüller of Munich is the only female snowboarder from Germany. She's here to show off her best tricks on the extra-high 24-meter ramp.
It gives me such a rush the moment everything actually comes together and you land just right and it keeps going full speed and you realise you've just done something totally outlandish. It's a brief experience and not really even necessary, but you still do it. The feeling is essentially what keeps me going.
Das Gefühl dabei ist das, was mich im Endeffekt antreibt.
Sponsors fund 28-year-old Silvia Mittermüller's equipment and her participation in international competitions. Most professional snowboarders are men. Silvia is one of the very few women among the world's top participants.
You quickly get used to there being 3 times as many guys as girls at the snowboard events. It's just normal for us. On the one hand, it's nice because people take notice when you do something special as a woman. There aren't that many women who dare to do something really new. On the other hand, though, it's harder because there aren't many women you can ride against and develop your skills with.
Silvia spends most of the year in the American ski resort of Breckenridge, where the slopes have snow for at least 6 months. Hers is a high-risk sport. In 2008, she had to sit out several months with a knee injury.
After every injury, it's a challenge to get back to your old form and strength, especially mentally. But I've always managed it quite well. If your body feels strong, your mind will follow. It's not as hard for me to forget the injuries now and just live in the moment. I realise that I feel good, everything's fine, and the injuries are history.
Silvia first tried snowboarding at the age of 14. Now she's joined the ranks of the world's 10 best female snowboarders. She flew over from the US for the Davos competition. First, she and the other women get out on the slopes to warm up. For the big air competitions, they try to outdo one another with complex tricks in front of a jury. "28 snowboarders from Europe and North America are competing for a €20,000 prize. Silvia will be trying to collect as many points as she can to improve her standings. On the first pass, everything goes as planned. But on the second pass, a fall costs her qualification for the finals.
The weather isn't great. You can't see very well at all. There's new snow on the inner run, but that's just part of it. Sometimes you do well, sometimes you don't. Today I didn't do so well. But what counts is that you come out in one piece. And in spite of my fall, I'm in one piece, so I'm not complaining.
Silvia Mittermüller watches her competitors from the sidelines and keeps her sights on her next competition in Oslo. But her big ambition is the 2014 Olympics in Russia.
Yes, bad luck to her then, but there's always another day. The Eternal City, Rome, is famous for its antiquities and its rich history. And you can see it all over the city, where you find ancient statues and sculptures carved out of stone or from the famous Carrara marble, which comes from quarries north of the Italian capital. So it's rather strange that the modern-day Italian sculptor Maurizio Savini has chosen, well, bubblegum as the raw material for his sculptures. Strange perhaps, but the results are incredible.
This is La Lupa, the she-wolf that nursed Romulus and Remus, the legendary founders of Rome. It's not unusual to see the iconic figure chiseled in stone, but this statue is made of 14 kilograms of bubblegum. It was sold for 28,000 euros. It's one of Italian artist Maurizio Savini's latest designs. He's known for his attention to detail, even with gum.
The first question everyone asks is, do you chew the gum? Do I chew all this gum? That's a question I've already heard a million times. It gets annoying, but maybe it's something people really ask themselves. No, I never chewed any of this gum.
39-year-old Maurizio Savini has been working with bubblegum for a decade, unchewed, of course. He warms it up so it can be easily applied to the plaster mold. The mold is crucial. Without it, his sticky sculptures would be too unstable. Savini says bubblegum is like any other material, except that it has a unique cultural significance.
I was looking for something with a connection to industry, to art history, and social history as well. Bubblegum reached Europe in 1945, just as World War II was coming to an end. Since 1950, this non-food, I don't consider bubblegum a food, became an essential part of European culture, along with Coca-Cola and nylon stockings. And it still is today.
Maurizio Savini relies on one specific brand of gum for his work. He doesn't want to name it, though. The company is aware of his art, but doesn't offer any support, like providing raw gum direct from the factory, which would make Savini's life a lot easier. Instead, he's forced to unwrap each individual piece of bubblegum and heat it up. He has 2 assistants to help him. It's a very labor-intensive process. Some of his sculptures involve more than 3,000 pieces of the chewy stuff. Savini's work often makes critical social and political statements. He uses strong colors to reinforce them.
I really wanted this color, this pink. In the past, I created sculptures that were not made of bubblegum, but I still use this color. To me, pink represents artificiality. When you see it, you associate it with a fake world.
Maurizio Savini was born in Rome. He studied architecture and worked abroad as an artist for several years. Now he's back in his hometown. Although he got off to a rather difficult start, his designs are now on display and in demand around the world, and they can command up to 50,000 euros.
The first exhibition I had went really well. There was only one problem, which was actually quite funny. The works I sold completely fell apart after 3 months. They were all sent back to the galleries. I had to give their money back, but I'd already spent it.
The high sugar content in the bubblegum had destroyed the foundation beneath. Now, Savini uses a mixture of formaldehyde and antibiotics to preserve his unique material, so that works like this one will still be intact for generations of Romans to come.
From bubblegum to brandy, and one that is said to be the oldest distilled in France and, according to connoisseurs, one of the finest. Armagnac, which comes from the southwestern region of the same name, is always distilled between November and February, and the amount produced is quite small compared to its more famous relative, cognac. I love it, and so do the French, because they only export 40% of the amount produced. The rest they drink themselves.
A tasting session has been called in the cellars of the Château de l'Aubade winery. This is where the estate's oldest Armagnacs are stored. The very oldest is from 1888, but younger vintages are also excellent.
Armagnac involves craftsmanship. Behind every Armagnac, there's an individual style. This is a brandy with an author, like a writer. Cognac, which is produced in much larger quantities, is much more stereotyped and industrial. Armagnac is still made by people, by families in a small growing region, in small barrels. It's all hand craftsmanship.
Armagnac is distilled from white wine. 4 different grape varieties are traditionally grown for it in Gascony in southwestern France. Château de l'Aubade is one of the best known and largest producers of Armagnac. It has been distilling wine for more than 100 years. Arnaud Legourgue manages the estate in the 3rd generation. The Armagnac is distilled in a special still, the Alambic Armagnacais. Unlike cognac, which is distilled twice, Armagnac is distilled in a single continuous process.
The advantage of our method is that, while the brandy is a bit rough-edged when it's young, as it matures, it can develop more character and complexity, because heating it only once means that fewer components, aromas, and structures are removed from the spirits.
People in Gascony have been distilling Armagnac for 700 years. Many small wine growers don't have their own distilleries. So from late autumn until March 31st, mobile distillers drive from estate to estate with their equipment. After that, distilling Armagnac is no longer allowed. Around half of every Armagnac vintage is produced with a mobile distillery. Gilbert Ménac has served a dozen vineyards each winter for the last 22 years.
The most important thing is to keep track of everything. After you've started the distilling process, you have to pay close attention. You have to control the inflow of wine, the temperature, and the alcohol content. And because you are distilling without interruption, you do it for 24 hours straight.
Back at the Château de l'Aubade, the Armagnac matures in oak barrels in 7 different cellars, each with a different temperature and humidity. Each Armagnac moves through at least 6 cellars and ages for up to 60 years. The wood from the surrounding forests gives Armagnac its color and flavor. The vintages are tasted regularly and moved into other cellars whenever necessary. Each cellar produces a different taste.
Aromas like vanilla, spices, coffee, cocoa, and what we really look for in the end, all the aromas that underscore the age of the brandy. That's our daily work here. And not only ours, but also that of the preceding generations who produced and stored the Armagnac here for their descendants.
So every bottle of Armagnac contains more than brandy. It also holds the passion, experience, and knowledge of the people of Gascony who produce it and who have grown up with it.
Let me tell you an anecdote. My sisters, my brother and I, and also our children, were all baptized in the church. But here, we also baptize children with Armagnac. You mix a little Armagnac with a lot of water and give the baby a small spoonful, so that very early on it takes part in the culture and way of life of Gascony.
Armagnac. For the people of Gascony, it's not just a high-quality beverage, but also an integral part of their lives.
So, we've had bubblegum sculptures on the programme, and now fasten your seats for three-dimensional wallpaper and do not adjust your sets. Markus Benesch creates wallpapers that really give you a new perspective. Wallpaper for a long time has had a rather dreary and old-fashioned reputation, but using new printing techniques and modern technology as his aids, Markus Benesch has brought wallpaper out of the dusty closet and put it at the forefront of interior design once again.
With his unusual patterns and striking colors, Markus Benesch doesn't hold back when it comes to design. Most of all, he likes to play with optical illusions, including 3D effects. The wallpaper redefines the space.
This is actually more of a low-tech material. We've always had paper. Of course, modern printing technology offers new possibilities. What fascinates me is that you can make whole worlds or visions or ideas a reality without actually having to physically build them.
Markus Benesch started out painting in Tron Loi style, a specialized technique where the artist makes something appear three-dimensional. Now, in addition to wallpaper, Benesch designs surfaces and spaces, altering them through optical illusions. His work is especially in demand for showrooms and trade fairs. In 2010, he presented his installation Mind the Gap in Munich. It created illusions of three-dimensional space.
Essentially, we changed the architecture itself with this illusion of three-dimensionality. We created a landscape with abysses, hills, valleys and mountains that you're able to interact with.
His wallpaper can also be used in lampshades. Benesch designed an entire office floor for a real estate company. The reception area is an eye-catcher. The desk seems to be floating in the air over a 3D floor covering.
When people enter the building, you see their eyes light up. Everyone who comes in here says, "Oh, that makes you blink." But actually, the workspace is quite tranquil. At first glance, it looks a bit gaudy and loud, but it's more enriching. You can let your mind run free here.
The conference room might take a bit of getting used to. What looks like a red ribbon runs across the walls, the floor, and ceiling. The patterned wallpaper dominates the space. Design expert Barbara Friedrich says Markus Benesch is a trendsetter.
I think
it was quite brave of him to take on wallpaper. In Germany, wallpaper had sunk into oblivion. The ubiquitous wood chip paper had totally replaced decorative wallpaper. So this is a trend that he helped to usher in.
Markus Benesch lives and works in Milan and Munich. His Munich apartment doubles as his showroom. Wallpaper can set the basic tone of a room, but not define it. It can be complemented by the patterns on the furniture or even by pictures on the wall. His work can be seen in Tokyo, New York, China, and France.
The 1980s on, wallpaper was seen as a very dusty, conservative item. So this is actually all about showing what the medium of wallpaper can do. And we have some very widely diverging ideas. Now we're applying wallpaper to fashion, upholstery and furniture, not just to walls.
With mere wallpaper, Markus Benesch creates living spaces, sculptures, and complete interior design concepts. Designers see him as an artist, while artists see him as a designer.
I think those wallpapers are wonderful, but I don't know if I could live with them. Finally, today we're off to the ski slopes. Many winter sports fans would like to have their own personalised skis. And nowadays that is possible, such as having your own design or initials on your skis. A small company in southern Germany is going one step further. You can have all this and actually make the skis yourself in their workshop.
Ski slopes can sometimes function as very long and steep catwalks. To be truly fashionable up here, you need the right clothes and the right skis. Determined individualists sport custom skis. Pepper Blue, a small firm in Bavaria, offers winter athletes a chance to create their own personalized skis.
You feel much better on skis that suit you perfectly than on generic ones off the rack.
You feel special on one-of-a-kind skis that only you have.
Customized equipment is gaining ground. Andreas Fehlau and Bernhard Held were among the first to recognize the trend. Major ski manufacturers have also started to offer some degree of personalization, decorative patterns and colors. But Andreas Fehlau goes at least one step further.
I thought, let's look inside a ski. Then I started to play around and discovered it's not all that difficult. You can actually make skis yourself. A good ski fits you and suits you. What's inside doesn't matter all that much, but it has to fit.
So Fehlau offers seminars where people can build their own skis, perfectly suited to their height, weight, and skiing style. The 3-day workshop, including the materials to make the skis, costs 600 euros, but without the bindings.
I wanted to do something for myself and have skis that are perfect for me. You can't get that when you go to a store.
Seminar participants fill out a questionnaire before they start to map what they want and need in a ski. A covering is cut to shape. Jutta Zimmerer has designed her own decorative one.
I'd like the left one to be red and the right one to be black. I played around with the design a little on the computer and I like this version.
After the sides are glued to the covering, the wood is shaped and milled. The core of the skis is made of ash wood, and the thickness varies from person to person, depending on taste and skiing style. The surface with the design on it is then covered with a layer of fiberglass, followed by wood and a layer of plastic. The individual layers are bound together using resin. Everything has to stick firmly together, so the skis are vacuum packed and put in the oven at more than 70 degrees Celsius.
It's like a puzzle with all the different pieces. If one doesn't fit, the whole ski doesn't work right.
8 hours later, the oven is opened, and out come fresh-baked skis. The plastic is removed.
They look really great. Better than I thought.
Only a few steps are left, like cutting out the exact shape of the skis and attaching the bindings. It's finally time for a test run outside.
When you get a bit of momentum, it's a completely different feeling. The skis turn out in a completely different way. It's actually how I always thought a ski should be.
Skiing, an experience that begins well before you get to the slopes.
And that's it for this edition of The Highlight Show. More on our website at dw-world.de/English/Euromaxx highlights. But for now, from all of us here in Berlin, glad you could join us, and bye-bye.